What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again today for another video. Apologies once again about not getting videos out. I've been very busy. College is right around the corner, and just running out of time to do things. But we're going to get a video in today. We're going to do a fun video today. We're going to do a list, and you know how controversial list can be. We're going to do my top 10 goalies list. So we'll have 3 honorable mentions, so it's really top 13. But I've chosen 10 goalies, and I've put down what in order what I think are the greatest goalies of all time. And we'll start with the honorable mentions. The lowest one being 4th all time on the wins list is a Hall of Famer, and has a .919 save percentage. The recently inducted Roberto Luongo. Luongo was mistreated basically his entire career. He was a 4th overall pick for the Islanders. He gets traded to Florida, becomes the face of that franchise because everyone else sucks in that franchise at that time. And I really put that on a slant right here. That's weird. Well, that's fine. But it looks a lot more slanted on the screen than it does in person. I will say that. But Luongo was in Florida. Then they get traded to Vancouver. Carries that team far, but gets blamed for everything by Canucks fans. The hockey guy could tell you all about that. And then the whole Schneider thing, and then him not starting the Heritage Classic, and then going back to Florida before they get really good, and then retiring, but is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it's well deserved. I thought Luongo was underrated, and I thought he took a lot of flack for stuff that wasn't really his fault basically his entire career. And he was a very excellent goalie. 4th all-time in wins, says it all. .919 save percentage, which is the second highest save percentage on this board for his career. Next honorable mention is someone he's got an asterisk next to him because he's not retired yet. Blackhawk legend Marc-Andre Fleury. He most likely will be in the Hall of Fame, so I put a plus sign next to his name on this side. He's 3rd all-time in wins at 544 and has a career .913 save percentage. What can you say about Fleury? He's been to 5 Stanley Cup Finals, won 3 Stanley Cups. People will say Matt Murray won 2 of them. But in 2008 and 2009, he was dominant on his way to the finals. Both of those years. And then 2018 with Vegas, that's enough said right there. And of course with Chicago, he played really well in Chicago. Just the problem is Chicago didn't play well around him. Then Minnesota, he's kind of turned into a backup role as Gustafson's kind of taken the lead, but he is nearing 40 years of age, so it's presumable at this time he's starting to slow down in his career. Next, and not least, realize how these are 3 goalies that played in my lifetime. Henrik Lundqvist, the recently inducted Henrik Lundqvist. Yeah, that one's on a slant, I can tell, that's fine. But he's got a dash next to his name because he was just recently inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's 6th all-time in wins at 459, and he has a .918 career save percentage. 3rd highest on this board, right behind Luongo. But now we get into the real countdown. With Lundqvist, he also spent his entire career with the Rangers. Even though he signed with the Capitals for that 1 year, he couldn't play because of a heart issue, I believe it was. I think. But he's now on the TNT panel, one of the greatest goalies I've seen in my generation. Now, at number 10, we're taking a trip down memory lane, because he's another former Blackhawk on this list. Has the single-season record in shutouts, and not only that, but shutouts for a rookie. Tony Esposito. He is, of course, a Hall of Famer. He is 10th all-time in wins at 423. .906 save percentage in his career because pucks went in a lot more back in the day than they do now. But Esposito, fantastic goalie. Of course, he was on some Hawk teams that were not the greatest, and he would kind of carry them to the playoffs in some years. But overall, great goaltender. I think a little overrated in his time. Of course, recently passed. There's a career video for him on his channel. If you want to go and check out that career video, shows you kind of his numbers. Because the Hawks in the late 70s and early and just 80s overall were not really good in the regular season, but on the playoffs they would kind of show up a bit. Not so much in the late 70s or early 80s though. And it came to the late 80s after he was gone that they would start showing up. At number 9, we have a player that can be credited for creating the hockey mask. I don't know how you spell this. I assume that's how you spell it. Jacques Plante, the Montreal Canadiens legend, played with the Leafs as well. 9th all-time in wins at 437. He is, of course, a Hall of Famer. And they did not track save percentage when he played. But from what I've watched of him, from what I've seen of him, from what I've heard of him, he was a legendary goaltender for a reason. And there's a reason he won a ton of Stanley Cups with the Habs. And yeah, I can't really speak from experience from watching him because I didn't. But it's similar with Tony Esposito. But Jacques Plante, fantastic goaltender, and not ranked 9th on the list. Now at number 8, we have the last goaltender who actually, it's kind of a lie, but it's really not. The last goaltender of my generation, we'll say. Carey Price. 361 wins is 22nd all-time, which is a bit low, and he probably is not going to play again. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. 917 save percentage. He's won a Hart Trophy for a reason. Carey Price was a dominant goaltender when he played. Really, it sucks saying when he played because it feels like that's someone I grew up watching my entire life. He was considered a top 3, top 1 goalie in the league most of the years. But Price, Hart, Vezina, All-Star appearances, you name it, he has it. Only thing he never got was a Stanley Cup. Carried Montreal to that 2021 Stanley Cup final. Stole a ton of playoff series that he played in. And overall was just incredible for Montreal. One of the legendary goaltenders of that organization, along with Jacques Plante, Patrick Waugh, and I'd say him. Jose Theodore, I wouldn't put in the legendary category, but he was very good in his time there for some seasons. Thinking of someone, Ken Dryden, of course. That's someone I forgot. You know what? Rewrite the list because I'm just going to put this down now. I'm going to put an honorable mention here because I cannot believe I forgot his name. I honestly couldn't. I cannot believe I forgot his name. Ken Dryden may have been the goalie of the 70s. And I didn't even, because he didn't play for a long time, he's not that high up on this ranking. But an honorable mention should definitely go out to him, since even though he only played for 8 seasons. Because he was a dominant goaltender. He won, I think, 5 or 6 Stanley Cups in his time, 71, 73, 76, 77, 78, 79. 6 Stanley Cups in his 8 years playing. He didn't win in 72, didn't win in 74, didn't win in 75, so 9 years. Number 7. A guy that I cannot believe is not in the Hall of Fame yet. In fact, he's the only one I think who is not guaranteed in the Hall of Fame on this list. Because he hasn't gotten there yet, and it's ridiculous. Number 7th all-time in wins at 454. Curtis Joseph all-time has a 906 save percentage. I realized it was not equivalent to across. But Curtis Joseph, fantastic goaltender, single-handedly won a playoff series for Edmonton against a very good Dallas team back in 1997. And he got bad rep because he never won a cup. He was on Detroit in between their Stanley Cups. He was on Toronto when Toronto was kind of meandering. He was fantastic in Edmonton, fantastic in St. Louis, fantastic in Detroit, even though Detroit could not get over the hump with him behind the net. If any other year, if he was in net for 2002, I think he wins the Stanley Cup. It doesn't matter who's on net for that team. You could have put Hasek, you could have put whoever in that net. Joseph is overall a fantastic goaltender. Number 6, with another Blackhawk on this list. Retired when I was very young. Ed Belfour, 906 career save percentage, 5th all-time in wins at 484. What a story for Belfour. Kind of came out of nowhere in 1990, 91-ish. Went to the President's Trophy, wins a Vezina. 92, he goes to the final. And 93, wins another. I think he won another Vezina that year. And then he spends the rest of his career as a very excellent goaltender. 99, he wins the Cup with the Stars. Goes to the final in 2000 with them as well. And for the rest of his career, he ends up in Toronto, wins some playoff series there. Goes to Florida near the end of his career. Doesn't win playoff series in Florida, but that's Florida. But overall, Belfour, fantastic goaltender. Another guy I couldn't really see play much, but from what I've seen highlights and clips of him, fantastic. Just a fantastic goaltender. Number 5 on the list. Another Blackhawk. I swear this isn't biased. They've just been around a long time. Glenn Hull was considered by some to be the greatest goaltender that's ever played the game, especially of the olden time. Ted Lindsay, Bobby Hull, or Ted Lindsay, I think said Sawchuk, but Bobby Hull, Stan Mikita, they both said Glenn Hull was the greatest goaltender who ever lived, and that kind of beefs up the reputation of a man who played a very long time for his time. 407 wins all time, which is 11th. No save percentage because that wasn't tracked back when he played. He played in the late 50s, 60s, even the early 70s he was there. But he played a long time for his time. And credit to him, he's still alive. He's like 92 years old at this point. So, of course, Tony Esposito passed away, who played after him, but Glenn Hull, he's still going, amazingly. One of the only Hall of Fame Blackhawks left. Him, Savard, Magnuson passed away in a car accident. Palat's been dead for many years. But, so Savard and Hall are like the only two legends left. And Savard's young, but not young, he's in his 60s. But Hall's in his 90s, and you never know these days. Now, moving on to number 4. Another guy I never got to see play, but another guy who didn't have a save percentage I can track either. Terry Sawchuk. The Detroit Red Wings legend, was a big part of that team, winning many Stanley Cups in the 50s. I think they won 4 in the 50s. And overall, fantastic goaltender. Definitely the greatest goaltender from before I'd say who played entirely in the 19th century. And 20th century. My maths are not working. But Ted Lindsay and Gordie Howe, they both said greatest goaltender they've ever played against or with. Well, Howe they never played. I don't think they ever played against him. Maybe later on in their careers, but Howe definitely not. But Lindsay, I remember during the 100 greatest players of all time, greatest 100 players, Sawchuk was 100% in there, and Lindsay came out outright and said greatest goaltender that ever played the game, better than anyone today, better than anyone back then, and. If the words would be true, makes sense why he's number 4 on the list. Now, at number 3, this might be a bit controversial because he's number 1 on the all-time wins list. And of course, all these guys are I forgot to mention Belfour Hall of Famer, Glenn Hall Hall of Famer, Terry Sawchuk Hall of Famer. But number 3 on the list is another Hall of Famer. Martin Brodeur. A guy who played a lot he was playing when I was born. He was playing in 94 and he was playing in 2014. He played a very long time in the NHL, 21 years I believe it was, and 912 career save percentage. Leader all time in wins at 691. He played a very long time, so it makes sense. Obviously a St. Louis Blues legend for those who get that, and New Jersey Devils superstar goaltender. Won so many Vezina trophies. Of course. The reason I have him 3rd, New Jersey really helped him out. New Jersey was a trap team, not in 95 especially, but 2000, 2003 not as much, but they were a very defensive team, and that kind of, I think, helped Brodeur's save percentage. There are 2 goalies I would still have ahead of him. If I want to get a win in Game 7 or something like that, there are 2 goalies I'd rather have ahead of him. And one of those, number 2 all-time in wins at 551, 910 career save percentage, Patrick Waugh. Retired the year before I was born, and what needs to be said, 4 Stanley Cups, 3 of them he wins the Conn Smythe in. So many historic runs in 86 when he's a rookie with the Canadiens. 93 he brings the Canadiens back to relevancy with that Stanley Cup over LA, and when they were not really favorites whatsoever. 96 he was traded to Colorado for halfway through the season because of Detroit lighting him up, and he goes on to beat Detroit so many times over and over, and wins the Stanley Cup in 96. He wins the Stanley Cup in 2001 as well, winning the Conn Smythe there. 96 was the only time he didn't. I think Sakic won it that year. And that just shows you he's a big-time goaltender. He's a playoff goaltender. And, however, I believe that there's only one guy that I think I'd rather have in a win-lose situation. If, let's say, you lose, you're out, you win, you're in. There's one guy I'd rather have over him, and that's the Dominator. Dominik Hasek, I still say, would probably be the guy that inspired the most kids to be a goaltender in today's world, or from, I'd say, today's goaltenders. Hasek with his acrobatic saves, him coming in '92, and he was quite a late. He came over in the NHL at 26. He's only 15th on the board at 389. If he played an extra 6 years, like when he came up from, like, let's say he came over a lot sooner, he has a good chance he'd be top 3 on that list right now. Highest save percentage on the board, 922. Played with Chicago, played in that '92 final in Game 4, and made some remarkable saves there to really gain the attention. It's part of one of the most lopsided trades ever when he's traded to Buffalo for Bjerregaard and Daze. Daze hadn't been drafted yet, but goes to Buffalo, wins 6 Vezina trophies, 2 Hart trophies, goes to the final in '99, loses, goes to Detroit in 2002 to win a cup. He wins, retires, comes back the next season with Ottawa after unretiring, and plays another 6 years in 03, 04, 06, 07, 08, so 5 more years, and wins the Stanley Cup again with Detroit in 08. He's on on the great Senators teams of the mid-2000s. And yeah, that's going to conclude the list. Of anyone, Hasek and Waugh are the 2 hardest to rank on this board. I never really watched either of them. I watched, of course, now their games from back in the day now. But Hasek with his acrobatic saves, if there's a guy if there's someone I want making a save at a certain time, in a desperate time, I'd rather have Hasek over Waugh. I think Waugh was too confident sometimes in his ability, which makes sense. He was the greatest goalie at the time. But Waugh was very cocky, and that kind of sometimes led to his downfall, like in 2002. 2003 during that Minnesota 3-1 comeback, which he retired after. Seemed like he got a bit cocky there. It's good to be a confident goaltender, but when you get cocky, it leads to your downfall sometimes. Everyone remembers the Statue of Liberty save against Detroit in that conference final, which eventually led to them never scoring another goal in that series for Colorado. Hasek was a guy that he was very modest. He was a very gentlemanly player as well, and I just really liked Hasek, and not to mention he was a Blackhawk, so bonus points there. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me down below what your top 10 list of goaltenders would be. I want to thank you guys so much for watching here. I just wanted to get another video out. Tell me down below how I'm wrong. It's an opinionated list. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.